Today is Wednesday, March the 25th. My name is Tom, and this is your ReadyCorps Daily Brief. Today, medical stability depends on systems most families take for granted. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Let's get you up to speed first with the latest from your ISAT team and the Daily Sit Rep.
This is your AmCon Daily Sit Rep for March the 25th, 2026. Up first today, Ford Motor Company is issuing a recall for more than 254,000 SUVs due to a software defect that can disable rear-view cameras and key driver assistance safety features. The defect involves the Image Processing Module A, which can overload in dense urban traffic, causing system resets and loss of functionality. Affected models include certain 2022 to 2025 Lincoln Navigator, 2024 to 2025 Lincoln Nautilus, 2025 Lincoln Aviator, and 2025 Ford Explorer vehicles. Ford will send out owner notifications starting March the 30th and offers a free software update either over the air or at dealerships. In other news, the city of Foster City, California, has declared a state of emergency following a ransomware attack that has crippled its network since March the 19th. While emergency services like 911 remain operational, non-emergency services including permits and payments are temporarily suspended. Residents are advised to change passwords, enable two-factor authentication, and monitor financial statements for suspicious activity. Officials are working with cybersecurity experts to restore systems and maintain public safety. Looking globally, the ongoing U.S. and Israeli military operations against Iran have led to a significant increase in terrorism incidents in Western countries. Since the campaign began on February the 28th, several attacks in the U.S. have involved self-radicalized lone actors inspired by the conflict, targeting locations such as bars, anti-Islam rallies, ROTC classes, and synagogues. This evolving threat environment underscores the need for community vigilance and law enforcement cooperation to detect and prevent further attacks. Turning to disaster recovery, community-led efforts have proven effective in accelerating recovery and building resilience. Cases from Houston after Hurricane Harvey and New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina illustrate how grassroots organizations and local networks facilitate efficient aid delivery and foster long-term leadership. Engaging community members as active participants rather than solely aid recipients helps speed emotional and physical recovery. Finally, there is an increased potential for civil unrest nationwide, with a rise in anti-ICE and anti-war protests in many large cities. Residents should maintain situational awareness when attending public events, know their exits, and report suspicious activity to authorities and the RISAT team when safe to do. Several online resources provide updated maps and information about upcoming protests. For today's weather, record-breaking heat continues to expand across the Southwest, Plains, Midwest, and Southeast, with over 200 record or near-record high temperatures forecast through the end of the week. Severe thunderstorms are possible Thursday across the Midwest and Ohio Valley. Additionally, critical fire weather conditions are expected in the central Rockies to Plains due to dryness and gusty winds. Northern regions will experience wintry precipitation through Thursday. Residents should stay alert to changing weather conditions, especially in affected areas. Looking ahead to events this week, on March 28th in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia, there is a free workshop on off-grid communication, covering practical uses of GMRS radios for emergency backup communications. Other events later this spring include annual camping gatherings in Alabama, Virginia, and Florida, offering opportunities for fellowship, training, and preparation. Members can access the American Contingency Members-Only site to get the full report and more in-depth analysis of today's stories, along with practical preparedness tips, training opportunities, and resources to help you, your family, and your neighborhood stay crisis ready.
Well, by the afternoon of day one, the novelty of the outage had worn off. Johnson House was functioning, but differently. The refrigerator stayed closed, the lantern rotated between rooms. Kids were adjusting, but slowly. Ryan stepped outside to check his phone for updates from the utility company. Cell signal had been inconsistent all morning. Now it just dropped entirely. No bars, no data. He walked down the driveway, held the phone up, tried again. Nothing. Inside, Emily called out that the battery bank was down to one remaining charge. Again, not catastrophic, but instructive. The medical supplies were intact, fever was manageable, bandages were stocked. And yet, the ability to manage even simple medical needs was starting to depend on something else entirely. Most families compartmentalize preparedness. Medical supplies in one cabinet, flashlights in another drawer, chargers somewhere else. But redundancy only works when you understand how systems depend on one another. Medical stability depends on power. Power supports lighting. Lighting supports assessment. Phones support communication. Communication supports emergency escalation. When the grid fails, you're not simply losing convenience. You're removing layers that quietly support health and safety. If a child's fever spikes at night and you can't see clearly, lighting matters. If symptoms change and you need guidance, communications matter. If a medical device requires charging, power matters. Redundancy thinking forces you to ask a harder question. What supports my medical capability and what supports that support? The Johnsons had a small battery lantern that covered lighting for a few hours at a time. They had one battery bank for phones that covered communications briefly. Ryan eventually retrieved the vehicle charging cable from the truck and ran the engine long enough to bring the phones back to usable levels. None of this required a generator. None of it required dramatic equipment. It required layers. So, for example, primary power was the grid. Secondary power was a stored battery. Tertiary power was vehicle charging. I don't know why that's hard for me to get out. Primary communications was home internet, like most of us. Secondary was cellular data, like most of us. Tertiary was stored information and pre-downloaded guidance. When you think like this, outages feel smaller because you're no longer dependent on a single pipeline. Redundancy is not about expecting disaster. It's about accepting that interruptions are normal, especially in spring when storms and localized outages are common. We've had our share over the past couple of weeks. Prepared families don't scramble when networks go quiet. They just shift to the next layer. So today, I want you to trace one medical capability in your home, such as monitoring a fever or contacting emergency services, and identify what systems support it. Then ask what happens if those systems fail. Go through the whole chain, just like the Johnsons did. Tomorrow we'll examine one of the most fragile areas in health preparedness, prescription and chronic care continuity. Thanks as always for listening to the ReadyCore Daily Brief. If you're already a member, thank you. And if you're not, all you have to do is visit readycore.net to find out more and join the network. I'm Tom Rigsby. Stay alert, stay ready, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.